Do you struggle getting angry and frustrated during competitive tennis play? If so, this lesson is exactly for you, especially if your performance tends to take a big nosedive when you're keeping track of score, playing a match. The skills that you know you have in practice just don't show up in match play, and as a result, you get super angry and frustrated at yourself. This is something that I've personally dealt with a lot in the past. And over the last several decades, as a full-time coach, I've learned a tremendous amount. And now that I am pushing myself back on the court again as a player and I'm starting to compete and train, I'm beginning to put into action a lot of what I've learned and what I've taught over the years, and it's helped me tremendously. And so I want to pass some of that on to you and share. Because recently, in very difficult, challenging situations, I've been able to actually be happy and feel fulfilled and feel satisfied, even when I'm not playing the way that I want to play. So if you'd like to make that pivot from being super frustrated and super angry at yourself to actually enjoying yourself on the court during competition, then this is exactly the video for you. So I want to start off by just talking a little bit about this picture. I haven't talked about this very much on our YouTube channel. I have talked about it in my audio podcast. If you're not already subscribed to the Essential Tennis podcast, make sure to do so. But to keep this story relatively short, when I was a young player, I loved tennis. Tennis was my biggest passion in life. It was like my reason for getting out of bed most mornings. And I just had a huge desire to push myself and just be on the court as much as possible. It was my biggest love in life, up until I became a college competitor. And suddenly, I was really hit head on with a lot of perfectionism and anger and frustration. I won't dive into all the reasons why that happened, but this picture was captured by one of my teammates in college. It was during the ITAs, the individual competition every year for NCAA. And it was after playing a match where I got so angry and frustrated and fed up with myself and how I thought I was playing. I was playing so far below where I felt like I was supposed to, that I ended up walking away from my team, just being by myself, and I just like found a spot to be alone. And I vividly remember this moment, laying on the ground and just like staring up at the sky. And I was just asking myself the question, how did I get here? How is it that I'm so miserable on a tennis court now? I just finished this match where, looking back, I was like, man, you know what? I actually played pretty well against somebody who's a better player than me. Why am I so angry at myself all the time? And this had spread into team practices, this had spread into practice matches, this had spread into matches that I won easily, matches where I got my butt handed to me by a really good player, matches that were tight and close. Like every scenario, I ended up just being frustrated and upset with myself. And in the moment, it got to the point where it just wasn't worth it for me anymore. And I haven't talked about this a lot on the YouTube channel, but I actually walked away. I actually quit my college team, my last semester of college, my senior year, because I was just so unhappy. And I was so honestly just kind of disturbed by how angry and upset I had become at myself on a tennis court that I decided to drop it and just focus on being a coach instead. So that was at the end of my college career. And that was almost 20 years ago. And in the last 20 years, I've focused all of my energy and attention on being the best tennis coach I can be. Up until that point, I was focused completely on being the best tennis player. And it was healthy for me, in hindsight, to create a little bit of separation and focus on my skills as a coach. And that's taught me three main lessons. So here are the different things, the different perspectives that have allowed me to go from that angry face emoji to somebody who actually enjoys being in competition. So number one, there's three different perspectives that have been super key for me. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm not saying I have it all figured out, but I think these are the top three reasons through which I'm now able to be in very high pressure, high stress situations, much higher stress and pressure than in college, and actually be happy and satisfied and enjoy the struggle and enjoy the competition. So the first is tennis perspective. what I have here, I'll zoom in on this for you so you can see it a little bit better. This is data from tennisanalytics.net. Shout out to Warren Pretorius there. He sent this chart to me. He's done an incredible amount of statistical analysis and data science around tennis. And this is, I think, millions of points now. They've analyzed, this is national level boys 12s, boys 14s, 16s, 18s, NCAA competitors, and an ATP, professional, like people who make their living playing tennis. And the yellow line is the percentage of points that end with somebody making a mistake, and the green line is the percentage of points that end with somebody hitting a winner, a clean winner. And so from boys 12s, it's 75-25, and then up to 76% errors, and then down to 74% errors. That's boys 18s. 73% errors. That's NCAA. 68% of ATP points end with somebody making a mistake, and 32% end with somebody hitting a winner. So about a third of the time, players who are the most elite athletes and performers in our sport are hitting a winner. And the other 2/3, somebody's getting their racket on the ball and not able to hit it back in play. And this is, I'm just going to kind of leave it at that, and I'll talk about that just for a moment now. But I did not have that perspective. And by the way, here's the women's. He broke it into men's and women's. Slightly different, but same exact ballpark. Vast majority of points end with somebody making a mistake. And this has been a kind of a core fundamental realization for me over the years, that my reality, what I expected of myself, my internal expectations as a tennis player were way out of whack. I had this general attitude as a tennis player, as a junior and as a college player, that I could kind of problem solve and figure out anything in the moment. Like I don't care what it is. Like my backhand's hitting the net, my serve is going long, like a pattern's not working. Like I should be able to just snap my fingers and just fix it right there in the moment. And I had a very perfectionistic kind of view on my game, and it wasn't healthy. It led me to be more and more unhappy and dissatisfied and frustrated with myself, and it led me down a very negative spiral, and it snowballed and became more and more and more negative. So this is kind of big perspective number one, is perspective on the game of tennis at large has shifted for me dramatically. I no longer focus on trying to hit perfect shots, and it's still deep inside me. Like you can probably relate to this. Do me a favor and comment, down below if you can relate to this. Like we all have this ESPN like top 10ification of sports, where it's like we're used to watching the highlights and like the most incredible, replays over and over and over again, and we get inspired by that and motivated, and it inspires us to go out on the court and work hard on our own game, and that's great. But in the moment, that tends to seep into our own kind of expectation. And we remember like the most impressive, like powerful, jaw-dropping shots that we hit. And I don't know about you, but I started kind of expecting that I could just rinse and repeat that and carbon copy it and keep hitting my best shot again and again and again, because I already hit it once, so why can't I hit it again and then hit it again and then hit it again? But tennis doesn't work that way. Not for the world's most elite players, and not for us either. So this is a big kind of key perspective number one. And if this resonates with you and it's helpful, do me a favor and click the like button. It helps these videos. It helps me out. So thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, number two. This is perspective number two that has been super transformative for me. And this is a personal perspective. And I could go into a lot of stories about how this kind of came about. But my view of my own quality of play and my own level of play was warped back when I was a junior and a high school player and a college player. I did not have an accurate or healthy perspective of my own level until years after I graduated from college. I perceived my level to be significantly higher than what it really was, and that led to a tremendous amount of frustration. So I drew this super scientific chart here. So this is kind of a spectrum of level of all tennis players. Down here is B for beginner. So like starting out in the game of tennis, never played a match before. And up here, F is for Roger Federer. And this is everything in between. Again, super scientific. This is where my perspective, my self-like perspective was of my skills. I would say, towards the end of college, I had worked my whole life so hard to get to where I was. And I had developed and I had improved a lot. And I worked incredibly, incredibly hard to get where I did. And this is I was like, okay, obviously I'm not quality player where I could go out and play professional tennis. I never even attempted that. Like, I recognized that I wasn't in that category of tennis players where I even had a chance to even try being a professional tennis player. But I kind of thought to myself, yeah, obviously, like, there's a gap here between me and like the top players in the world. But I would kind of think to myself, man, if only I started earlier, like if my parents had money and I didn't have to like pay for my own lessons growing up, like, man, maybe I could have like made it. Like I could have been like a world-class player. The reality, in hindsight now that I know what I know about the game of tennis, and I have so many direct and indirect experiences with professional tennis players, with players who played elite, professional players, I know exactly where I stand now. And the reality is somewhere down around here. And so there's this gap here between where I perceived my skill level to be and where it really was. And so every time I would hit a shot that landed in this zone here, and God forbid, a shot that landed in this zone here that was below like my actual, real level, it would be unbelievably triggering for me. And anytime I lost to an opponent who was in this zone here, or again, God forbid, I lost to an opponent who is down here, like a little below my real life level, it would be like just a absolute astronomical like explosion. It's like my brain just didn't even know how to process it or handle it because I didn't have a clear or accurate picture of my own game or my own skills. And this kind of reminds me of a phrase that I like a lot. And this is, you don't have to like take this super seriously, but I just think it's good perspective, and it's a phrase that's kind of good to think about. Happiness equals reality minus expectations. So in other words, if your expectations are super, super huge, but reality happens and it's not even close to your expectations, then your happiness is going to be very, very low. And then think about it, this could be in anything, not just tennis, but anything in life. If your expectations are very low, and what happens in reality is like incredible and mind-blowing and astronomically great, then your happiness will be super, super high. So in hindsight, I realized that my expectations were way too big, my perfectionism was super huge, and reality almost never came close to what I expected of myself. I expected basically perfection of myself on a tennis court towards the end of my college career, and reality just wasn't even close to that. And so I got more and more upset, more and more frustrated, more and more angry. And this is a big reason, like as I reflect on my experiences as a tennis player, maybe you've noticed there's kind of an undertone in my content and my online coaching of like I push videos super hard, and anytime you see somebody in the comments be like, oh, that's not 4-5 tennis, like that's 3-5. Like I've made whole videos trying to explain why there's this disconnect for players, and it's because I used to have this disconnect. I used to have this gap between what I thought I was playing and the reality of the game I was playing. And so when I see other tennis players project that kind of insecurity and they expose them, if you watch a tennis video online of like an experienced League 4.0 player who's played 4.0 for years, and you're the person who's saying, oh, this is 3.0 tennis, this isn't 4.0 tennis, you're exposing yourself. You're exposing your own lack of understanding and awareness of your own game and kind of tennis at large. And so that's why I'm such a huge proponent of video, because video brings these two things together. It brings together your own perspective and the reality, like the truth of what's really happening out there on the court. And I think that's maybe one of the most valuable things you can do for yourself in your tennis. I know it's been super, super valuable for me. Okay, so third perspective here. This will be a shorter one. So the first super critical perspective was about tennis, kind of in a macro sense. Most points end with somebody making a mistake, in a nutshell. Second big perspective was personal, this gap between my perspective of my own tennis game and the reality, like the truth about my own tennis game. Excuse me. And then the third big perspective shift that happened, when I walked off my college team my senior year of college, 4 different things happened over the last 20 years that have allowed me to take a little bit of a step back and have a more healthy view of tennis, a more healthy approach to tennis, and as a result, have much more happiness, have much more fulfillment, have much more success and satisfaction. The first thing is I got married, and so life wasn't just all about me anymore. I've been married almost 17 years now, and so that relationship has taught me a lot. And I've got 2 kids now in that relationship with my wife, an 11-year-old and a 7-year-old. Almost 8-year-old. And so that brings a lot of perspective and helps me, when I watch them grow, it teaches me a lot about myself. I see myself and the decisions that they make and the attitudes that they have and the blind spots that they have. It teaches me a lot about me and my tennis. This business that I've grown over the last 13 years, and the students that I work with, all of you watching right now, every time you leave a comment below these videos, I read it, and we help each other out. I want you to know that publishing these videos and reading all of the feedback, the positive, the negative, the suggestions, hey, you forgot about X, Y, and Z, every single piece of feedback that I receive helps me. And every time I work with a student on the courts and I have to reinvent a different way of explaining something and a different training progression or a different drill, a different way of solving the same problem, for the 45th different way, that helps me grow my perspective and my understanding of the game as well. So all of these things have helped me before, not sure how well you can read this, but before, tennis was life for me. And I'm telling you this because there's a certain percentage of you out there who you're very, very wrapped up in your tennis game. And for me, as a junior, as a high school player, as a college player, nothing else really mattered to me. That was it. I didn't have my marriage. I didn't have my kids. I didn't have my business. I didn't have my students that I worked with on an ongoing basis. I didn't have my podcast listeners. I didn't have my YouTube audience. It was just me, and every single day on the court, going back out with that perfectionistic, mindset, I was just kind of grinding myself into the courts, day after day after day, criticizing myself, being negative, putting myself down anytime I couldn't hit the perfect shot. And so it snowballed, and it became an incredibly self-destructive, negative thing. So this was the third big kind of perspective shift for me over the years. So really quickly, the big 3 kind of perspectives for me. Tennis perspective has shifted a lot over the years. My viewpoint on tennis, my personal perspective of my own game has shifted a lot, and I've squeezed the gap between reality and my perception a lot. By filming myself and publishing it, on the internet has helped tremendously. And finally, life perspective for me has changed a lot. And so, as a result, sorry, I wanted to say a spoiler. If you haven't watched part 1, I'm going to talk about part 1 of my match with. The reason why I'm talking about this, it's interesting for me. I watched back part 1 of my match with Chris, and honestly, I couldn't help but feel really proud of myself because this is my face looking at the camera. When I was down 0-5 in the first set, I hadn't won a game yet. Everything was going about as poorly as possible. And I had a lot of personal pride in this moment, watching myself back when part 1 came out yesterday, that I was able to be in that difficult of a position, have that much adversity and that big of a challenge mentally and tactically and in front of me in that moment, and be able to smile. Because I know myself, my old self, looking back, would be absolutely crushed mentally. I would be performing so poorly. I would be in such a negative, hatred mind space. There's no way I would have any chance of coming back. My pattern in college was I would either win fast or I would lose fast. Either everything was going my way and I would just roll, and the match would be over super fast, or things were not going my way and things would roll in a very negative direction. And so I was usually the first one off the court because it was either a positive day or a negative day. And now I'm able to make adjustments and be mentally free and happy. And I'm not saying that it was fun to be down 0-5, but I had mental clarity and an ability to problem solve that I never would have had before. And so for me, this is my personal top lesson, my top lesson learned for me watching my match against Chris. That's why I'm talking about it today. That's why I put together this quick presentation, because it's such an unbelievably freeing feeling for me. Right now, when I'm in this situation, I'm grateful. If you watch this first video, part 1 against Chris, I keep repeating this is a great opportunity to work on this part of my game that's not going well. I'm grateful to have that chance in a match situation, to have this great competitor across the net for me and have the chance to get met face first, head on with this big obstacle and big problem with my game. And so because I have that gratitude, I have the chance to actually grow as a player and grow as a person instead of going down that terrible negative, cycle of just being more and more angry and upset. And so the last words I said in part 1 were, all I can do is just do the best I can. And I never ever told myself that in the past. So that's why I wanted to talk about this today. I hope this can help you do the same thing. And by the way, I mentioned the podcast briefly earlier. I just published a new episode of the podcast, number 372. It's called a 6-Step Match Anxiety Cure. If you struggle with having nerves and anxiety during match play, then definitely check out this episode. Any podcast player, any podcast app, just do a search for Essential Tennis podcast. If you want to kind of continue with this theme and nervousness is a big issue for you, then check out episode number 372. So that's what I have to talk about today. If you have any questions, I'd love to talk. If it's about mental toughness or anything else tennis related, and you're watching live right now, just put it in the chat. And we'll do a little bit of Q&A. Thanks for hanging out today. Man, that's a good thing to be grateful for. Jay, look, I'm grateful for courts that are open during COVID. Yeah, a lot of parts of the world right now, you still can't play tennis. RJ Ring, thank you. Appreciate your comments a lot. FaZe, I think another reason Ian is positive while being down 0-5 is because in the back of his mind, he thinks that getting to the net is an easy way to get points. No, I don't think that's a fair statement, FaZe. In the back of my mind, I know I'm better at the net than at the baseline, but I'm not under any kind of illusion or delusion that if I come to the net, it's some kind of cheat code and I'll automatically win. I'm not at all, when you hear me make those comments, I'm not gonna bail out and go to the net and serve and volley. I'm not at all trying to imply that I think I can totally beat Chris. All I have to do is come to the net. Chris still can hit passing shots. Chris can still hit, winning lobs, so on and so forth. I'm not at all saying I could totally turn this around if I just came to the net. Maybe not. Maybe he would hit winners. Maybe he would hit passing shots. I don't know. But what I do know is that developing this part of my game, my baseline game, is so critical for me to be a well-rounded player. I don't want to keep bailing out and pulling the ripcord and just going, oh, well, it's not going my way again. I'm just going to serve and volley. It's important for me to develop this other part of my game as well. Brian Mark, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Leslie Zhao or Zhu, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Rashid, hey, what's up? And if it was all about the win, he would just do that. Yeah, exactly. It's not all about the win for me. And there's been like some debate in the comments below some of these videos about how I'm making a bad decision by working on my game instead of trying to win. And I think it's just a personal decision. Like, there's a time and a place where it's like, okay, this match, this tournament, this whatever, like this is all about trying to develop my skills at this point. Like, this is all about trying to win. And sometimes that's the most important thing. Other times it's not the most important thing. And so you have to decide for yourself. I feel like I'm very much like at the bottom of the mountain still and just starting to get back into playing tennis as a competitor again. And so I feel like I have these huge projects that need to be addressed. So I'm not all about trying to like maximize for the W right now. It's just not the place I feel like I am at the moment. In the future, it will be the case that it's like, okay, I just have to do whatever it takes to win right now, today. Whatever tool I have, whatever tactic I can shift to, I'm going to do that because I have to win this match. And that's not the headspace I'm in right now at all. Ian's, hey, what's up, Jeb? Jeb's tennis. Jeb, either that's a really good joke or you weren't here for earlier when I talked about my self perspective. I'm most definitely not going ATP. All right, let's see what we got here. What do most players deal with bad line calls? How do most players? I mean, frankly, I think most players deal with bad line calls really poorly. They kind of feel it like a personal attack, and it's like how dare they cheat me out of this? Like, this is such an important thing, and it's like, how dare they like rip this like point out of my hands that like I earned and I deserved. The vast majority of the time, it's an honest mistake, and the other player really actually thought it was out. That's the vast majority of bad line calls. B, even if they are trying to hook you, which almost never, it's so rare. It's unbelievably rare that somebody's actually maliciously, trying to make a bad call. It's out of your control anyway. There's nothing you can do about it. Your mental energy is much better served focusing in on what you can control, which is your attitude, your efforts, and your intensity, and your strategy and your tactics. Those are the only three things that you actually control you can't control them or their behavior or whether or not they're a cheater or not. So why even like put yourself through that mental anguish of A, calling them a cheater to yourself or to their face, and then B, like pitching a fit about it? It's not going to help you play any better or have any better chance of winning. Hey, what's up, Michael Trice? Reeker boy, what's your mindset down 0-5? It never crossed my mind to tank. Totally honest. You'll see in part 2. That never crossed my mind. I would view that as a fantastic, and I did. I view it as a fantastic opportunity to try to make an epic comeback. And I did everything possible to make that happen. You'll see in part 2, which is coming out tomorrow. Thoughts on maintaining positivity while maintaining intensity? Yeah, John, I think it comes down to your perspective and your mental state and your mental toughness and mindset. And I think the three things that I talked about in today's lesson, they're the three biggest things for me, like the three biggest perspectives for me. If I'm in line with all three of those things, then I can be full intensity and I'll still get frustrated. Like, I'm not trying to say like I've solved this and like I'm some like beacon of light and positivity and I never get angry or upset. But now when I get frustrated, like it's over in like 10 seconds. It's like, yeah, I get frustrated still making mistakes, but then I come back to like a neutral mental state very quickly. Whereas before it was like negative and then more negative, then more negative, then more negative. And it's like every point I was still negative from the last point, and then that layered onto that negativity, and I would go even deeper, and then I would carry that into the next point, and I'd make another mistake and get even more negative. And so before, intensity and negativity kind of went hand in hand. These days, I'm able to, I still experience the frustration, but I'm able to let it go and release it like very quickly. And it's no longer like an anchor for me. Hey, what's up, Not Wilg? You can bail out by saying it's a practice game. Yeah, I understand that perspective. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, what Not Wilg is saying, where you didn't play your best possible game. Yeah, no, I understand that perspective where you could easily, I don't know if criticize is the right word. You could criticize my approach there by saying, oh, Ian's just trying to protect himself and say that, oh, if I lost, it's because I lost like with my B game. Please don't misunderstand my comments. I still very, 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 very badly want to win, no matter what strategy I used, or if it's like my A game or something that's not quite my best shot, to win that day. My goal, first and foremost, like I still very much want to win. I hate losing, no matter which part of my game I'm focused on, or whether I'm focused on optimizing for the W or not. Like I still very much want to win. So I don't think you've ever heard me say something like, oh, well, it doesn't matter because I was just working on my backhand, or it's not like a real loss because I was just trying to hit my forehand better. Hopefully you've never heard me say anything close to that. And I've tried hard to always give like full credit to my opponents, yada, yada, yada. But there is a certain like mindset where I totally hear where you're coming from, where that can be a mental like bailout, where it's like you give yourself a get out of jail free card because, oh, I didn't really, this wasn't like a real match because I was working on stuff. I feel pretty confident I'm not headed in that direction. But keep checking me. Like if you feel like I am headed in that direction, then by all means tell me. And I'm more than happy to talk about it. But it's a very good point. Like people can give themselves like a get out of jail free card in that regard. Yeah. You never answered my backhand question. Yeah, Goober, I see a whole bunch of you posting. You never answer my question, but I don't see your question. When I'm talking to the camera, I don't see everything that's going on in the chat. So you got repost your question. I think I saw Sandset in here. Yeah, what's up, Mark? Needed this video. Hey, Ragav, hopefully I'm not mispronouncing your name. Awesome. I hope this is helpful. Good luck in your match. That's amazing. Tips on recovery. Yeah, I would say two things have been super, super key and critical for me. Number one has been taking sleep really seriously. I have a ring that tracks my my activity and also the quality of my sleep every night. And it was shocking to me when I started using it that the amount of time that I spent in bed was not the amount of sleep that I got. For me, I'm a very light sleeper. It's very difficult for me to sleep well. And I was kind of shocked to learn that I had to subtract about an hour and a half. My previous thinking was like, oh, if I go to bed at 10 o'clock and I wake up at 6 o'clock, that's 8 hours, right? Everybody says get 8 hours of sleep, so I better clock that in. I was actually only getting 6.5. And when I started actually getting 8 hours, the way my body recovered and the quality of my recovery and how good I felt, the quality of my energy was so much better. So I would encourage you to track your sleep somehow. There's all kind of phone apps and all kinds of different ways to do it. And then the other big thing is hydration, and of course like nutrition as well. But if you hydrate really well and you get tons of sleep, your body is going to thank you and you'll be able to bounce back from stuff and push yourself harder. When I'm sleeping well and hydrating well, I can train twice as frequently and keep bouncing back. When I'm not sleeping well and I'm not hydrating well, then my body needs twice as much time in between training sessions or matches to actually feel like I'm 100% again. So now I'm trying to find a backhand question again from, and I don't see it. Corey McDonald, can you clarify? Yeah, that's a very good question. Can you clarify winners and errors? Does winners include forced errors? That's just clean winners. That's a very good question. Corey, if you follow tennis statisticians, and Craig O'Shaughnessy is an excellent one. I've been following him for quite a few years now. Warren Pretorius. at Tennis Analytics. Craig O'Shaughnessy is at BrainGameTennis.com. There's an increasing sentiment or movement by big thinkers in the tennis world that forced errors just needs to be done away with because it's so subjective. Meaning it's kind of like an opinion. Like when I miss a backhand, like I might say it was a unforced error, but my opponent might be like, no way, like I hit that shot super deep with like a lot of topspin, like I deserve credit for that point. It was a forced error because I hit a good shot. And I might be like, no way, like that was an easy shot. I should have made it. And so here's the thing, when there's that person up in the media box or the scorer's table or whatever is charting, and they have to make a quick decision about whether it was a forced error or an unforced error, there's a huge degree of opinion and subjectivity there. And so people like Warren are starting to just group together all errors and not make that subjective call, whether it's a forced error or an unforced error, because they feel like it's a more pure way of deciding what's really going on. So I'm not a big expert in that, but it's something I find really interesting. Okay, here we go. All right. Guru Bob got it in there. Sometimes I can hit, I think, a strong topspin backhand, but most of the time I end up slicing my backhand, one-handed backhand. Yeah, Bob, you just need to go to YouTube and do a YouTube search for Essential Tennis Crappy Backhand. I'll type that in the chat really quick. Essential Tennis Crappy Backhand. So I've been going through the process of totally rebuilding my topspin one-handed backhand for the last 8 months now, and it's been a long, tedious process, and it's been through like very purposeful drills and progressions, and just pushing the difficulty level just a little bit at a time. If you practice with an easy ball in training and you hit, it feels good and you're hitting confidently with the one-hander, and then you go play a match, there's a huge gap between like hitting with a partner or hitting with a ball machine or like dropping a ball to yourself and hitting one-handed backhand and playing in a match. When you go to the match, you're going to go back to the slice. And this is what I did for years and years and years and years. And so the backhand slice just ended up being like my normal shot in matches. And so 8 months ago, I made the decision, that's enough of that. I have to figure out how to actually hit a real, topspin backhand. And so if you do a search for Essential Tennis Crappy Backhand, there's at least 3 videos there that show the starting of my backhand journey, and there's more as well. So watch those videos, and it'll show you exactly what I've done to work on my backhand. Can we see Matt versus Mark or Ian? Yeah, Matt very much wants to play a match. He definitely will play a match sometime soon. Michael Trice apparently asked, hey, what's up, hey, Ben, what's up? Everybody, MEP is in the chat. How you doing, Ben? Ben, nice win against Seattle, MEP. You did a fantastic job applying pressure in coming forwards and kind of forcing him to try to hit passing shots or good lobs. You did a great job in that match. It was, as always, entertaining to read the comments below that match play, since it was like dueling MEP. What ring are you using to try? It's called an Oura ring, Jorge. O-U-R-A ring. Yeah, MEP, yeah. It's Seattle MEP versus Atlanta MEP on Tennis Troll channel. Definitely check it out. Trice, what the heck was your question? I'm trying to find it. Mike, can you? Oh, here it is. How can I become a better coach without losing my mental edge as a player? Oh man, that's a tough question. Is it possible to be able to do both at the same time? or will it hamper my ability to improve as a coach? Michael, that's a really tough question. I think I think it's possible, and you're in a perfect position right now to be able to do it if you want to. You're young, it's early in your career. You're not married with a family yet, and so like you have some control over your time still. I did the 40, 50-hour a week on the court grind for many years. I know how much energy that takes out of you, mentally and physically, and how little motivation there might be to actually go out and hit when you're on the court that much, teaching, professionally. I think that doing a good job at either one can take a tremendous amount of energy. Trying to do a good job of both at the same time, I would say my honest opinion, my honest thoughts are, you'd better just be prepared to more or less give up everything else. Other hobbies, other interests, just like general relaxing time. Like if you wanted, my personal perspective is if you want to do really well at both, something else in your life will probably have to take a back seat that currently is in the front seat with you now. Or you could view it as kind of a shift in the ratio of how you spend your time. So if right now, for example, you're doing 40 hours a week on the court, maybe it would be worth it for you to take a little bit of a financial hit and do 30 hours a week or 35 or however many you need to do to still be, full-time employee. Let's just say hypothetically 30 hours a week, and then take that other 10 hours that you were on the court as a coach and devote that, go all in on developing yourself as a player, as a competitor. That might be the best solution. But if you're going to go 40 hours on the week coaching and try to push yourself as a player, you better not have any other hobbies, and you'd better be willing to sacrifice other stuff, because the amount of time, the amount of energy, dude, just the energy alone. But listen, if you have the drive and the aspiration to do both, you better do it right now, because it's not going to get easier as you get older. You're down the road. I don't know what your plans are. If you have a family, down the road, as you get deeper in your career, as you get older, and it's more difficult to bounce back, physically, all of those things are going to stack, and it's going to get more and more and more difficult. So if you have aspirations to do both at 100%, you better do it. You better do it now. I'm not saying it's impossible as you get older, but man, it's a bear. I mean, I'm super blessed that I get to kind of control my schedule. And I don't have to be on the court 40 hours to make a good living anymore, and I'm super grateful for that. That's very rare in our profession. Generally, you got to be grinding it out, day after day after day, if you want to make a good living as a tennis coach. And I feel really grateful that I don't have to do that, and I have the choice to decide to work on my game if I want to. All right, from Phil, is there any merit to training yourself to be emotionally bland during competition, boring style? No, Phil, my thought on that, honestly, if you look down through history of tennis, you've got players on one end of the spectrum, like a Bjorn Borg or a Pete Sampras, that were just like you're saying, bland, like boring, showed no emotion or almost never, very little emotion, and performed really well with that kind of emotional face that they put on. Then over here, on the other end of the spectrum, you've got your John McEnroe, you've got your Jimmy Connors, you've got players that are super fiery, and they look for reasons to be hyped up and to be super animated and gregarious and excited. And they performed really, really well with that kind of persona. And then there's everything in between. I think anybody who says you have to be here, or you have to be here, or you have to be here, is just totally way too narrow in their thinking. You have to decide for you, for Phil, what a mental, emotional state do you perform the best? And it's going to be a little bit different for just about everybody. So I would encourage you to experiment with it and take a lot of notes, record yourself playing if at all possible, and find out like what mental state do you perform the best. It's going to be a little bit different for everybody. Yeah, and Jonas makes a good point in the chat. Borg was burning on the inside. Like just because you're icy on the outside, all those same feelings and emotions are on the inside. Do not think that good mental toughness is about like trying to be a robot and never show any emotion and never have feelings and never be nervous, never be anxious. That's a lie. Like that's absolutely false. Even the most like stoic, stone-faced elite athletes, they have all of those same feelings going on inside of them. So please don't feel like that's like the goal, is to be like totally flat and have nothing going on. It's not realistic. It's not possible. All right, last question or two here, and then I got to run. Talk about routine before USTA matches. Reeker Boy, if you know you get angry on the court and can flip in a second, kind of that guy, what is the mental approach before you step on the courts? I'm not sure what you mean. I must have missed something else here, Reeker Boy. You're kind of that guy. Oh, you're that kind of guy, sorry. Mental approach before you step on the court. Yeah, so I can just talk about that last part. What's the best mental approach? Yeah, I would say that's going to be a little different for everybody as well. Like some people are like, they perform the best when they go into a match super zen and calm and like they're listening to like classical music or Enya or like they're meditating. And then you look at somebody like a Nadal, and obviously like his motor, like when you watch him in pre-match, like just warm-up sessions, he's already going 100 miles an hour, like in the pre-match warm-up. I'm talking before he gets to the arena, like before he gets to the match court, he's out on another court before that, frickin', running and sprinting back and forth. So, and he's probably listening to, I don't know, like EDM or like something super, super aggressive, like beforehand, like Metallica or something. So again, like you have to know yourself and like what mental state and what level of like emotional arousal do you perform the best. I have to kind of watch myself a little bit. I tend to get too wound up and like my adrenaline tends to kind of spike early in a match. So recently I've been working on trying to keep myself a little more calm, a little more on the calm side. I get super excited and hyped up, like to a point where it's not productive. So you need to find out for yourself. Nadal is a Skrillex fan. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Best tip you can give to improve your volleys, Julian, do a search on YouTube for what's it called? Let me find it for you really quickly. Let me link you to a lesson. It's probably my favorite volley lesson, tennis volley. But if you just do a YouTube search for essential tennis volley, here we go. Ultimate volley control drill. There's many more parts you could add on top of this drill, but this is probably my favorite place to start. Long story short, people overdo their volleys tremendously. There's an overemphasis on like punching and stomping, and like people don't have any feel or control. And I think developing that part of the spectrum is super critical for tennis players. How's my racket search coming along, Michael? I'm talking to a manufacturer and a rep from that manufacturer. We have a scheduled date. I'm hoping to kind of make it like an official thing, and we're kind of still talking about that. But as of right now, I'm still hitting with the same frame. But a couple weeks from now, I'm going to be trying new frames, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll become like an official partnership. but we'll see what happens. One or two more, and then I got to run. Have you always been confident coming to the net? When did that become a part of your game, a key part of your game? Yeah, Phil, I've always felt comfortable up there. The person I took lessons from when I was a kid, here on these courts, loved volleys. He was kind of an old school, mostly old school. I would say he was like 70% old school and 30% like kind of on the modern side. And he loved the net. He was a fantastic volleyer. He had incredible hands. And he just kind of instilled, I think, that love of being at the net in me, and was fantastic at teaching it, and just had all kinds of different developmental like tools and games that I just really gravitated towards. So yeah, as long as I can remember, I've loved coming up to the net. It's always been a big thing for me. Oh, Sandset. Yeah, he told me he was reaching out to you. So Mark, so you're officially going to be part of that, the play testing. I really want to make that an official. I want to make that a video, and I want that to be like an official thing. But please don't talk about it until I hopefully tell you that it's an official thing. It might end up not being an official thing, in which case we're not going to record any of it. Which I would. Guys, I hate corporate. I hate corporate like BS like so much. But anyway, we might not be able to even talk about it or film it, Mark. But let's see what happens. Clay, yeah, it's a well-known manufacturer. Yeah, I very much want to do a video of the play test. Like me, I kind of have a personal policy that I don't go on a tennis court without recording it. And so it would feel like such a waste for me to be on the court for multiple hours play testing rackets and not record it. I feel like it would be such a waste. So I very much want to record it. A book called Winning Ugly from Brad Gilbert. Have you read that book? Yeah, I read that book in high school, and I loved it. Like I loved it then. I'm sure it's still fantastic. I haven't opened it back up since then, but I really loved it back then. It really. That kind of attitude, just like the gritty, like do what it takes kind of, like I just love that kind of competitive fire. And so, yeah, I think it was a super useful, like practical book. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. Great book. Yeah, I mean, it's probably the most well-known, like tennis competition, like tennis improvement kind of book out there. I would have to. It's definitely in the top 3, but it's probably number 1 or number 2, I would guess. Ball machine SG Playmate 100%. They make the best ball machines. Just period. Like I don't think there's anybody would even like debate that. It's grabbing my face. Come on. Playmate ball machines are definitely the best made ball machines. That's what I use. They're an official sponsor. I love the app to be able to control the drill, and not just switch drills, but be able to change the speed and the height and the spin and the location. You just set up any like endless. It's endlessly customizable, whatever you want to work on. I just did like an hour and a half training session with the machine yesterday. It's fantastic. All right. I'm sorry, guys. Lots of good questions still coming in, but I got to run. The court is about to be used by somebody else, and I've got some more things I have to take care of before I head home for the day. Thanks so much for hanging out today. I really appreciate it. Thanks for your support. I hope today's lesson was helpful. And I'll be back again soon. Tomorrow, part 2 of that match against Chris is getting published, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for your support with all my match play and my training. I'll talk to you all again soon. Take care. Hope you all have a great night.